Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Shift Happens. I'm feeling very calm and peaceful because we are talking today to Andrea, who takes us on a wonderful sound journey. So we're talking about frequencies, but we started off with a little demo of sound. So I'm in a place of calm, pure relaxation. So let's talk to Andrea and find out all about what she does. The first time I had a sound healing with you, I was blown away. You literally brought me to tears. I'd been going through a really difficult time, and it was magnificent is the only word I can use to describe it. So I'm really interested in what brought you to sound healing with your voice as well, because that's what makes it magic.
First of all, that's amazing that you had that experience. It's not uncommon for people to have that experience. For me, sound is very multidimensional. It's not like just about the relaxation. There's so many other aspects to it. But for the beginnings of it, for me, were very much from, I suppose for me, it's very much about, it has a connection to source. It has a connection to light. It is light. And that's where my beginnings with it started back in 2012. I wasn't going out looking to be a sound healer, if we want to say. I don't actually like the term sound healer these days, but we'll go into that later. I wasn't going out looking to do sound baths or anything like that. I knew nothing about sound. I wasn't from a singing background. I was terrified of using my voice, anything like that. And it all began really through, I had a series of dreams first. I had dreams where I was using my voice very loud in connecting with this light. I could go into more detail, but I won't. But there was a connection with a light in a forest in the one dream. And then the following two dreams, I was in a sacred circle of people using my voice very loudly to clear energy. So I remembered the dreams because I've always been very connected to my dreams, but thought nothing really. I had no clue what it was about. Went along to a sacred plant medicine ceremony on the winter solstice in 2012, and I was going through a really difficult time at that moment, and that was when the sound started to channel through my voice. So it was a surprise to me, but it also felt very, very natural to do it. And it really cleared that sort of darkness that I was in at that moment and at that time. But not only that, the other people in the group felt it, and their feedback to me was that they felt this clearing. And for some people, it really like touched a nerve. It pushed a few buttons and it brought stuff up for them. And that's what sound can do. It can help to move stuff that's uncomfortable as well. And sometimes, it can be a bit like that. But at the time, I had no clue what the path for me was going to be with sound back then. So I'm going back sort of 13, 14 years. And then it was only, I always kept that connection with the voice, and it was only in the sacred plant ceremonies that I actually was able to drop out of the Andrea personality and into that space where it's beyond thought and beyond the mind. And when I was in that place, I was able to channel vocally because I wasn't filtering it, I wasn't thinking about it, and the effect that it was having on me and the people present was very real, very visceral, very interesting. But again, I had no clue, what does this look like outside of these circles? Fast forward like a good few years, a lot of changes in life, a lot of stress, a lot of all kinds of things going on. And then get into lockdown. And I think it was during the first lockdown, a friend of mine reached out to me, and she was really struggling and asked, could I send her some Reiki healing? Because I've got like nearly 30 years background now in energy healing. So I said, yeah, well, can we try something different? And do you trust me? And she said, yeah, go for it, whatever. So we got on WhatsApp, and I just channeled through my voice, just with the voice. I had no instruments. And she is actually a very intuitive psychic medium herself. So she's very tuned into energy. And she just felt this incredible clearing and uplifting. And it really, really helped her in that moment. And I was like, okay, there is something to this that's calling me. I had another friend in Ireland who is kind of my mentor, and he was present when it first started happening in 2012. He was always sort of poking at me to do this work with my voice, but it took a lot of dissolving of Andrea to enable that to come through, because the Andrea personality could not see how is that possible to go out into the world and actually use your voice as a healing instrument. So it took a good few years of dissolving Andrea, working on me, before I could then felt the confidence and the pull to then start working publicly with it. And then I released a YouTube just, I think, during one of the lockdowns, just for something to do, and thought, well, let's see where this goes. I started collecting instruments, and then I got invited to the local yoga studio. Would you come and do some sound? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, people just going to find this really, really weird, but they loved it, and it's had an organic just growth from there. I've never pushed it. It's just been where I've been called and where I've been invited, and I've just gone with the flow, and it's really been my calling. Yeah.
It's for anybody, all the details will be below in the comments, but you have to listen to it, because it's alchemy. It really is. It's just beautiful. Can I take us back to 2012?
Yeah.
Because I'm really fascinated about the ceremonies that you were at. Did you just start singing for no reason? How did that come about?
So how it started, it wasn't really singing. They call it, I didn't know what it was at the time, but it's called vocal toning. Yeah. It is a form of sonic alchemy. So I knew nothing about this at the time. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't really know anything about sound. I'm not even sure if I'd been to a sound bath back then. But I was very much into energy work and that field. So it kind of, for me, when I was feeling all of this sort of darkness and this sort of cloud over me and couldn't see a way out. If anyone's ever done any deep medicine work, they'll know what I'm talking about. This sound just sort of came from beneath me. It sort of spiraled its way up, and I could feel this sort of vibration working through my throat. And I started just opening my mouth. It felt natural just to open my mouth, and the sound started coming out. So it was my voice, but where the energy was coming from, I don't know. I very much connect with source. I always have done, and back then it's part of what I do when I'm channeling. And I think back then, that was, for me, it was that connection with source that was. And Andrea being out of the way, in that altered state, was just, I was just able to let it spiral up and work its way out. I mean, I don't know what you would call it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I could feel what the sound was doing. I didn't know it was called vocal sound healing or vocal toning or anything like that. I had no clue about anybody else doing it. I just allowed it to come through, and it just sort of opened up this window around me of this cleared this energy, and I felt like I was able to breathe again. And my partner, who was with me at the time, he was nudging me and encouraging me to keep going, and I think I went on for about an hour. Over about an hour,
that's
just
awesome.
Really loudly, which was that was then what made sense of the 3 dreams that I'd had prior to that, these premonition dreams of using the voice as an instrument for peace, for healing, if you want to say that. Although I don't like to call, I think when I'm doing what most people term as a sound bath, I think that's what most people know. For me, it's a sound journey, because I feel like I'm bringing people on a journey with the sound and with the vocals. It's very much opening up that sacred space and handing it over to a higher consciousness, to a higher intelligence, and me getting out of the way. So it's sort of dropping into an altered state. And then I can allow it to come through unfiltered. So in the early days when I started doing it, I think I was much louder because I was forcing it. It's like I had to force it to get it out. But then over time, I dissolved.
Yeah.
And when the personality dissolves, then whatever needs to come through you as a channel, and anyone can channel. It's not just about sound or vocals. You can be gardening and you're channeling. If you're in the flow and time doesn't exist, you're channeling. So you could be speaking, you could be singing, you could be composing music, you could be writing, you could be doing stand-up comedy. Yeah. If you forget that time exists and your personality is dissolved, then you're an open channel for something to flow through you. So I never think that channeling is a special gift. It's just I've had to work at dissolving me to allow that to come through. Yeah.
Would you say, because you refer to Andrea, dissolving Andrea, would you say that the old Andrea found it very difficult to express and speak your truth? Because there's so many people, especially my clients and people that I speak to, I mean, I think men as well as women, but we find it very difficult to speak our truth and express ourselves, and then that's when we have problems with our throat. So would you say that you dissolving that part of yourself, and I'm assuming you mean Andrea as in, what are you doing? You can't do this. Don't be so stupid. So once you've kind of surrendered that and you're stepping into that, would you say that it's really helped you to actually speak your truth now in areas of your life that you probably didn't do before?
Definitely. It's interesting you brought that up, because it's a huge part of, again, a lot with women particularly. I think we feel that I know definitely my age group, I was born in 1970, so I was always told as a little girl, little girls are quiet, they're to look pretty and not to be heard. It's like you're seen and not heard. And my brother was really disruptive and noisy. He was 2 years older than me. So I thought, it's good to be quiet. That's because that's just the way we were spoken to then. Little girls are quiet. So I had that. And then I also believe I came in with past life stuff around the fifth energy center, or the throat chakra, if you want to call it. I was born with oversized tonsils. So when I screamed or cried as a baby, I would pass out. So the airways would block up. I had recurrent tonsillitis constantly as a baby. I've had a lot of thyroid issues, thyroiditis, underactive thyroid. So underactive is this is not being used properly. Dystonia issues in the neck and shoulders. And TMJ in the jaw. So, and also I used to suffer a lot with a very sort of croaky, hoarse voice, especially when I was really stressed. And again, I think it's that suppressed energy. It's that suppressed thing that you're totally unconscious of. And I think most women are. But I'm not just talking about women. I suppose I'm talking about women because I am a woman from that perspective. But that inability to express, to speak your truth. And a lot of that has been part of my own healing journey to be able to do this work that I'm doing now and that I've been doing for the past nearly 5 years. So, and it's been that the sound has been part of my own healing journey as well. Yeah. So it's healed so much, not just with my voice and the ability to express, but also like with confidence and in relationships and in business and work and all sorts. It's public speaking, because when I'm doing sound journeys, I have to be able to speak to people in the public eye, and then do YouTube videos and that. So it's helped, but it's been a progression. When I started doing this nearly 5 years ago, it was much more suppressed and it took time. But they say done is better than perfect, and just to get on with it, because when you feel in that calling, sometimes you just have to do it even though it's not perfect and it's not right, people were still having shifts and experiences in the sound journeys. So because I was being called, I was being asked, I was thinking, well, it's not up to me to stop this work. I've got to, like I say, get Andrea out of the way and allow this to come through as a clear channel.
Yeah. What kind of shifts are people having whilst they're taking a journey with you, whilst they're on a journey?
Yeah, it's so, like I say, sound is so multidimensional, and that the shifts are so multidimensional because, if we look at the physical side of it first, with people having their physical relief from pain and discomfort. So, for example, last night I was doing a workplace wellbeing sound journey, and there was a lady who had to sit in a chair because she had back pain. At the end of the sound journey, she said, my back pain went and it's still gone. And that was her intention. So we've got like the physical shifts that people can have. Then if we look mentally, so if you've got a lot going on in your mind, which we all have these days, there's a lot of mental chatter. When you drop into that space with sound, and particularly I always think with the crystal singing bowls, they have a particular frequency that slows the brain waves down. So we can go into a little bit of the science as well, where it slows the brain waves down. Your brain becomes more coherent, so you can think clearly. Then we've got the, I suppose, emotional aspect, like you said before, where you cried, because it can be an emotional release. It could be something, it can open your heart. It could bring you into your heart. It can bring people back to a memory. I've heard people say that it brought them back to a memory, and it was just a beautiful release for them. So there's the emotional. Then we've got the spiritual side. A lot of people come to the sound journeys as part of their own spiritual health and well-being, and it helps them to connect to source. And I always say when I'm in that space and I'm channeling, for me it's a sort of download of light frequency. It's that source energy that's being channeled through and being embodied in the person. The bridge is the voice, the sound. So it lowers its the sound comes through into a slightly denser frequency of sound, so that it can be picked up in the room. So it's I suppose it's a form of light working, or some people say light language. Sometimes that comes through. It's light and it's pure essence, and it comes from source. So that's the spiritual, but then there's also the quantum level. So it's working on the quantum and energetics. And for me, that's the really interesting one, because that's where I'm really fascinated in my work, is that people will have experiences where they've dropped out of their body in the sound journey, and they've been floating away somewhere in the cosmos or in another place. They're just completely gone. Obviously they come back, but they come back at the ring of a bell. Come back, and it's so interesting, because when I ask people to set an intention for themselves at the start of a sound journey, I always say to them, it's whatever you want or what you need right now. So whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, or you want to manifest something. And so many people have come back to me that have manifested things, and from setting an intention in the sound journey. And the only way I can think that happened is because they've dropped into that space where they're not involved. So they've got out of the way. They've expanded into those energy realms, those higher realms. They've connected with source, and they've let go. And I think we have to, when you're trying to manifest anything, it's all about surrendering it and letting it go. So I always, when I talk people through the meditation at the beginning, set your intention, then surrender it and let it go, and just allow it to be, So it works on so many levels. I work with a group of people who are also, most of them are psychic mediums, and they do a lot of things like tarot and crystal healing. So a lot of their experiences in their sound journeys is very spirit connected. So they'll say that they've received messages from spirit or different people, that loved ones that have passed over, or that they've had messages for themselves about their own spiritual journey and path, because that's what they connect with. And this is, I suppose, what's, so amazing about meditation is when you can drop into deep states of meditation, you can get out of the mind and the thinking state. That's when things can happen. We have to get out of the way. And when they come to a sound journey and they lie down and they give themselves up and they allow that light frequency to be infused into their body and their energy field and the dimensions around them, that's when things can happen for them. So it's a really beautiful process. Like I say, it's multidimensional. It's not just about the physical. There's a lot of science to it. Yeah. Which we can go into, but there's also, all these dimensions,
we're both sitting
because, for people that are listening who are already open to this, we may have listeners that have got no idea. This is the first time they're hearing about it. And, and a lot of these modalities we talk about, people go, oh, that's woo-woo, that is. But people don't realise that actually there is science behind this. And sometimes people need that to kind of make that first step to perhaps try something like this. Mm-hmm. But I guess also if it feels right in the heart, if you feel drawn to something, I always think that's an indicator of go and try something like this, because obviously we spend a lot of time in our minds analysing, oh, well, that's woo-woo, it can't do this, so sometimes we have to just trust. So anyone listening who is drawn to Andrea, go. It'd be nice to talk about the science. If Joe Bloggs, the builder, I don't know why I'm saying Joe Bloggs, the builder around the corner, Bob the builder, if I just mixed it up a little bit, if he's listening, why would he want to come and try a sound? What would they expect for their first time? Why would they want to come?
Okay, so I mean, I get all walks of life that come to sound journeys. There are some people, like you say, they're on that path, they're on that journey, they're very open to energy work, healing, they've tried all kinds of things, and they've heard about sound baths and they want to go and experience that. And then I get people who have never been to anything like that. So I had a lady who brought her partner recently, a couple of months ago, to a sound bath, and he thought it was all that weird stuff you go to, but she'd been talking about it so much he decided to come. So he came to the first one, couldn't fully let go as usual, but he had a spiritual awakening. And now he couldn't wait to come back. He came back to the next one, and they're going to Glastonbury and all these wonderful things. So it's opened up a whole new world for him, and I love that, because he was open enough to come and experience it just on that gut feeling. But like you say, there's also people who say, well, what's the science behind it? And there is a lot, and they're learning more and more all the time. So very much so, it has a very profound effect on the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's activating the rest and digest, because a lot of the time we're in fight or flight, we're in high stress, and they know now that about 80% of all disease is caused by stress, because when we're stressed we've got cortisol, which is the stress hormone, coursing through the system. So most people that have quite horrible diseases, they've got high levels of cortisol in the system. So it helps with that. It helps to drop us into those deep states and just quieten the mind. It slows down the brain waves. So most of the time we're in beta, the brain waves. When we're talking, we're, analytically problem solving and just going about our day-to-day business. And our hearts are not coherent because we're stressed as well. So your heart rhythm's all over the place. And sound helps to just balance everything, drop us down into those deep states of relaxation for a prolonged period of time. So whether it's an hour or an hour and a half, you're in that state. So you're not thinking, oh, I've got to sit down and meditate. And most you'll sit down for half an hour, and probably for 2 minutes of that you've actually gone quiet, unless you're really well practiced at meditation. So the sound helps them to do that because it will slow the brain waves down. It'll bring the heart into coherent rhythm. But then also on a cellular level, we know that the cells have tiny antennas on them called cilia. So the antennas actually pick up the sound frequencies. So we're so sensitive to sound. So for example, if somebody puts some really relaxing music on and you think, oh, this is so relaxing, and you can chill out to it a bit. So music therapy now is a big thing. But then somebody will put something on that could be like thrash heavy metal, and it's so loud and it will stress you out. So you know, for other people they might find that relaxing. So on a cellular level, we've got that breaking it right down. But also our bodies are made up of predominantly water, and water is a huge sound conductor. So there's a lot of what they call Somatics. I don't know whether you've ever heard of Somatics. If you go onto Instagram and just type in Somatics, you'll see people using pools of water or paint or all kinds of different liquids, or even things like sand, and they play sound frequencies. And you'll see these very coherent or sacred geometric patterns that will form. That's what's happening in our bodies, is that we're picking that up. So even people who are deaf and they can't hear, they're picking up sound and vibration. I actually had a deaf lady that did come to a sound bath, and she was able to feel all of the vibrations. She had a hearing implant, but unfortunately her healthcare practitioner said no, because it could affect the hearing implant, which she was devastated, because she so enjoyed just receiving those and being able to drop into that space. But it's, yeah, so this, and also when we look at people with Alzheimer's, any kind of neurological disorders, it's having a huge effect on. There's a lot of research being done now with dementia, Parkinson's, anything to do with the brain. Really, it's having such a profound effect. And it's, like I say, it's not just someone like me doing this in a yoga studio. There are actual doctors who are doing this work. I follow a guy on Instagram. I can't remember his Instagram handle, but he is an A&E surgeon, and he does sound baths regularly for the staff in A&E to drop them down into, because they're in such high stressful jobs, and they're in that high state that they can't think coherently, and that's when people start making mistakes, because they're, but when you can drop yourself down into that state and receive that sound, and your brain can become coherent, you can just think more clearly. So it's got there is such a lot of science. I could go all day about that. There's so much.
Yeah, there's so much science, and it was actually Einstein, wasn't it, that said that the healing modality of the future is frequency.
Yeah, I think it was Edgar Cayce who said, who was the I'm not sure. Einstein probably said something about that as well.
About frequency and energy.
Yeah, sound being the medicine of the future.
Yeah, he did. I mean, it's incredible. But I love those great big bowls where you can stand in them.
Yes,
and people play them, and
bowls,
they're
it's
incredible.
Not in the UK, is it?
And if you,
is that in the UK?
You can buy them. They're just Tibetan bowls, and you stand in them. But I mean, frequency. Even some people believe that it's frequency that moved all of the bricks to build the pyramids.
Oh yeah. I've heard
that, I mean,
yeah.
that's the power of frequency, isn't it? And we've heard so. I have definitely. We went to this. You're probably a bit more au fait with it than me, but we went to a beautiful talk the other evening, and she was talking about light and frequency. And actually, the reality is that's all there is. That is source. Light and frequency. And you're talking about that vibration that people are hearing. We went drumming the other night. And while half the group were drumming, I held the drum here on my heart, and I could feel the vibration of them playing through making my drum vibrate, and then that going down into my body. And it was beautiful. And I really feel that a lot of these modalities are just going back to who intrinsically, we are, and what our souls know.
Yeah, and I love that about the drum, because it's really one of the earliest instruments. The voice is the oldest, most original instrument, you know, and it's such an incredible thing that we can, you know, it's not about being a singer. You know, I don't have a singing background. It's about just opening this kind of resonant chamber up to allow frequency and sound to come through, and then it just gets shaped by the mouth and by this resonant chamber. But the drum then is also obviously a very, very old, ancient tribal instrument that indigenous cultures would have used, and even before that we would have been stamping on the ground and banging our chests and banging rocks or whatever to make sound with. And in those shamanic cultures as well, going way back, they would have used drumming to go into altered states, to be able to go on those healing journeys with people. So very, very fast drumming. So there are different drumming rhythms that you can use. You can use a heartbeat rhythm, which will bring the heart into coherence and bring you into your heart. Or you can use a very, very fast, it's something like about 120 beats per minute, don't quote me on that, where it will entrain the brain. So with sound, we're using entrainment to bring the body back into step, bring the brain back into its proper natural rhythm, or the heart back into its natural rhythm, the body and the nervous system back into its natural rhythm, so that we can drop into those altered states where ultimately we can just go on that healing journey for ourselves. So it's not, I always say, it's not about the person doing the sound, even though we're called sound healers, or it's a sound healing, or it's a sound bath. You're being bathed in the frequencies. For me, I'm a space holder for that, and I'm a channeler for that, so I allow that to come through. But I'm not there to heal you. You know, I always I'm very careful about that. I'm not there to heal you. You're coming to receive frequency, to recalibrate yourself, bring you back into a state of harmony. And it's from that place of balance and harmony that you can heal. So it's just all comes in. It's very holistic, isn't it? Like we say, so multidimensional.
It is.
I think
Beautiful.
we underestimate frequencies. I mean, I was just explaining to Paula on the way here in the car, I've been recently had this sort of scan done on my body about what frequencies that I needed to bring my body back into state of balance, because I was firing too much here in my mind, because I do overthink things and analyse things, and I cannot believe the difference I feel from listening to those frequencies over the last 4 days. I feel calmer and I feel in balance, you know. So frequencies are so powerful. People don't realise this. They need to.
And the wonderful thing is about sound and frequency is that you don't have to go to a sound bath. You don't have to plug into YouTube, and you can, you know, obviously. You can go to a forest. You know, in Japan, forest bathing is very, very big now, and you can listen to the birds, and the birds have a particular frequency that is connected to nature, and it brings us back into a state of harmony. The rustling of the breeze in the trees, you know, we all know when we go out for a walk in nature, you feel so much calmer and just more at peace and more grounded. And if you can get your feet on the earth as well, you're really connected. And almost all of my instruments that I use, they are the frequency of them is 432 hertz. So 432 hertz is the resonant frequency of nature and the universe. So I specifically wanted to work with those instruments because for me it's about bringing people back into a state of harmony, and that's 432 hertz. So probably what you've been using, listening to, is bringing you just back into that peaceful state.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is
People
amazing.
need to start listening to frequencies, or sound. It's absolutely incredible.
I really believe wholeheartedly that it's the future of medicine. I really, really do believe that. And I mean, I've even seen on Instagram that they're taking it into wards and all sorts of things.
Yeah. And babies as well. I come across them a lot on Instagram, and I usually share. I've shared some in the last couple of days. Babies absolutely screaming, crying, and somebody comes beside them with a Tibetan bowl and just bongs the bowl, and instantly the baby goes
Oh, I've
peaceful.
gone goosey you
And
saying that.
And the
It's-
reason it's so instant is because the baby's not thinking about it. The
Yeah.
baby's not
Yeah.
like, oh, what's that? I'm not sure. And like as an adult, we would go, oh, I'm not. Because I know I get people in sound baths when they come for the first time, they can't really drop down because they're wondering what's going on and what's that sound. And all that feels weird. I can feel tingling, all this. The baby, it's like the baby's not going to think about it. She or he's just going to go drop. And so the effect is instant quiet and peace. You know?
Animals as
And
well.
Animals. Yeah.
Oh, my horse,
Yeah,
my pony.
yeah.
If I put
Really?
my phone on in the stable while I'm doing some jobs and I put some sound on, he goes right up to my phone with his nose.
I know.
And then he just it's floppy lip and he just goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Animals just absolutely love it.
I mean, I work with animals. I'm a dog walker and pet sitter as well. That's my day job, and sound is my evening and weekend job. But I will quite often, if I'm with an animal that's a bit nervous or distressed or anxious, or particularly with cats, a lot of rescue animals, I'll either sing to them. It's quite common, and particularly cats are very, very sensitive to the way you speak to them.
Yeah.
Dogs as well, but cats. I've got a real affinity with cats. So when I start to sing to a cat, and I'll just allow whatever needs to come through for the cat, it's amazing how they will just like look at me and then they will just sink down. They'll just lie down, or they might walk around in circles and they're like checking me out. And then other times, if it's a dog, say, who's a bit anxious or whatever, I might get YouTube on. I'll find some Tibetan bowls or something.
Yeah.
And I'll play something to them, and there'll be this like just moment where they'll stop. Yeah. But then you'll occasionally get one that they won't like it and they'll move away. And it could be that they just don't like the frequency, especially dogs, because they've got a very acute hearing. So they either don't like the frequency and I need to change it.
Talking about not liking the frequency, I invited my mum to come to a sound healing, and they used the gongs. And I think it was with the gongs that they used, and she was poking me, going, yeah, and I was like, what? You know, I was in a relaxed state, and I was like, what's the matter? And she's like, I need to get out of here now. Like, it's really irritating me. And she stayed for the whole duration, but she said to me after, it was making me angry and I was feeling irritable. Would you mind explaining a little bit? We're just taking a short break at the moment, but I just want to tell you about our next week's guest called Ron, who has an amazing story how he healed himself through chronic fatigue. Very interesting. Back to the show.
It's what it's bringing up for that person, but sometimes, like, I'm very sensitive to gongs. I don't use gongs. I've been to gong baths and they make me very anxious. I find them too loud. They hurt my ears. For other people, they love gongs. So I think it's a very personal thing with the particular sound. But what happens a lot with gongs, and when I'm playing with we're playing with the bowls, when I'm playing the bowls, we can create what we call dissonant frequencies. So when you create this dissonance, it doesn't sound particularly harmonious. It's not meant to be. And you can get, with the bowls, you can get this sort of wah wah sound, and you could be going, oh, that just doesn't sound very good. It's not in harmony. It's not very nice. And obviously I had to learn what that was when I did eventually trained as a sound healer, but it's called dissonant frequencies, and what it does is it actually pushes our buttons, and it makes us, like, it can bring stuff up and you may feel discomfort. And I always say to people in sound journeys, if you do feel anything sounds a bit unusual to you, you don't like the sound of it, or it feels a bit weird in your body, just breathe into it and know that you're okay, and just surrender it for whatever it is that needs to come up. Now, for me, when I was in a gong bath, there was it was like stimulating a lot of anxiety in me, but also because it was hurting my ears, I didn't like it, you know. So I don't know what it was bringing up for me, but I'm not drawn to gongs. But like I say, other people love them. So that's what it is, really. It's just, it could be just bringing something up for her, or just if it made her feel angry. It could be just a particular noise or frequency that doesn't work well with her system.
And that just goes to show how frequencies, if you've got any trapped emotions in the body, the frequency is just bringing it up and out of the body
exactly.
to be
Yeah.
transmuted. So
Absolutely.
And that's the important thing is to allow it to be transmuted and just let it go. But sometimes we want to clench our fists and our teeth and hold on.
Well, this is
because it's uncomfortable, and sometimes the healing journey is uncomfortable. Sometimes it's not, all.
It's very uncomfortable, isn't it? We talk about this all the time. It's messy and it is uncomfortable. And I think the further you go down the rabbit hole, the more uncomfortable it can become.
It is, but then it can also get to the states of bliss and beauty and
absolutely.
joy. And I think that for me, that's where I'm really at now with my journey is well, I get a sound bath nearly every week, don't I? So
wow, you do.
I'm always in sound frequency, so I'm just bathed in it all the time.
I love it. And actually that leads me really, because I just want to finish off with one kind of last question, which is what is it and you've nearly answered, or you've gone, what has it brought for you, living with these frequencies? How's it changed your life, and what's it brought to your life?
So much peace. Anything that I had before that was anxiety related, or that would trigger me, or that I was really stressed about, a lot of that has gone. So I don't feel those sort of that nervous anxiety that I used to have. A lot of the dystonia issues around my neck and shoulders have gone. A lot of the physical stuff, it's gone or it's eased, but it's just such a beautiful modality, and it's just to be able to sit in a sound journey and hold that space for other people to receive the sound. For me, it's a real honour and a privilege to be able to do that. And I don't sit there saying it lightly, like, oh, I've been chosen to do this, because there's a lot of people doing this. I had no idea, like when I started. There are lots of other people doing it and more people doing it, and it's wonderful. More sound baths, the better,
Yeah.
But it's just brought so much peace and stillness to me, and just coherence is a huge thing.
And you radiate, I must say, being in your presence, you radiate exactly what you've just said. So
absolutely.
no, it's lovely.
I think one of the important things about when you're holding space for others is that you walk the talk, and that you live. You're not just saying, come to me and I'll sort you out. If you're in a world of poo yourself, you've got to calm your system first to be able to hold that space for others.
Well, what a beautiful, beautiful gift you have to be able to channel source. It's wonderful, and thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And I can't wait for the next sound journey.
I can't wait to channel for you again.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching our episode with the lovely Andrea. I feel so chilled out. How do you feel? Please subscribe. It will help us grow our channel, and comment and like. My question to you guys is, what frequencies are you listening to? Are they good? Are they bad? How can you bring in more lovely frequencies into your life?